loud.
Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the town. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood-friendly Kiwi Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her Phoenix Rising era.
Settle down onto your favorite city as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the town. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and
Deep, 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 deep.
diving into the yellow connections of our favorite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers and maybe tears.
Dearest listeners, we, the Ladies Bridgerton, are coming to you today with the social event of the season. If you were not sent an invitation, you must really be of no consequence because Colin invited strangers. The pews were full, the choir in full voice, and the church festooned in a blaze of finery no Regency church wedding had ever seen in this era. We won't leave a detail untangented as we discuss flowers, the dress, moods, vows, looks, love, and the birth of Colin, my wife, Bridgerton. Grab your tissues and snacks. Speaking of snacks, I know you're not eating too much right now because you're under the weather, but what are you snacking on today?
I had a scone and I've got some lemonade. Not American lemonade because I just realized that I saw a skit the other day that there's a difference. We call Sprite lemonade.
Okay, so carbonated lemon lime drink.
Yes.
Basically. So I really liked that watermelon slushie from my local gas station, and I was ordering my dinner. I can't order it from them. So I ordered from another gas station and they had Sour Patch Kids watermelon slushie, and I'm puckering. It's sour. It's delicious.
For the rest of the
And of
world,
course,
we're blown away by the fact that you can order your dinner from a gas station.
well, I didn't order my dinner from the gas station. I just made them also stop at the gas station to get me drinks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because the drinks actually, through DoorDash, drinks are usually cheaper as a double dash at the gas station rather than buying it from the restaurant. I ordered barbecue. So I have brisket and mac and cheese and cornbread.
No beans.
I can't remember if I ordered the baked beans or not, but I won't eat them because I know you're struggling right now. She's on the nauseous side, folks.
What's the tea today, Vale?
Okay, Bridgerton news. We have a really long episode today, so I'm just keeping it short and sweet. First of all, we had the 2-year anniversary of season 3.
Pollen week. Month.
And they dropped some bloopers, including a deleted scene, if anyone noticed. It was a blooper from a deleted scene because we never, ever saw Cressida and Eloise go to the ice cream shop together.
No,
as
I was
friends.
thinking, I'm like, I don't recall this scene. Have I just forgotten this?
No. In the season where everybody came out full force saying there were no deleted scenes, there's nothing on the cutting room floor, guys. Everything's in this season. Liars. Liars. There was way more to Eloise and Cressida's friendship than we even got to see, which might have been helpful. Again, we should have had 10 extra minutes in season 3 as well. But the bloopers were hilarious.
My wedding wife was my favorite.
My wedding wife was so cute.
wedding wife.
I really liked the one with Danbury and Violet, and Ruth kept messing up the line, and it always ended like it was a question. Like she goes, "Does the queen piss?" And of course,
Danbury
Adjoa Ando
is so funny.
In her comedic glory is like, "Why, yes, of course she does." That was so funny.
And then like
I loved
Nicola
it so
being
much.
blown away by I mean, to be fair, she is so small in stature. She could be blown away by those fans. And why were those fans so noisy? I'm like, how could you possibly get
that was straight up slapstick comedy. She was playing that off and it was amazing. Like, this is why she is a comedic genius. I can't wait I haven't seen it yet, but I've got to find the whole SNL UK episode she was on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could tell she was acting like she was being blown away because she's just, pocket pen.
Yeah.
But it was so funny.
But I'm saying, like, legitimately,
hilarious.
she could have been blown away because those things are massive and she's tiny.
And I would love to have Claudia Jesse's job. Just saying. Claudia Jesse spends her day roasting the people in the scene with her.
What was
the term
she kept saying? Like, Like, shove it up your
F me
ass.
in the no, F me in it. Yeah, which yeah,
Made me
but
laugh so much because it's so her, though.
she roasted Luke Thompson in the scene where he was confused and it was his turn to speak. She roasted what's his name? Sam something? Debling, the guy who plays
Yes, yeah,
Debling.
yeah, yeah.
She roasted him. She's like, "Oh, he thought that was the funniest thing ever, like, that he had done such a good job." Like, she just roast
He
her
Sam
co-stars.
was quite stiff in the, behind the scenes stuff with Cressida and Eloise, I felt, and Penn.
Yeah, I think he's a I mean, I don't think he's like that in person. I think he played Debling very stiff, and he seems to be the kind of actor that tries to stay in character in
Hmm.
between takes. But yeah, he was, acting, and Claudia thought it was hilarious, and I love that. Like she just roasts everybody all day and plays pretend, and that's her job. Like Claudia
Yeah.
Jesse, you have the best job ever. I wish it would never end for you.
And then Luke Newton with his "my wedding wife," and he's like, "What? Is that not right?" "My wedded wife." Luke, get it right before your own wedding one day, buddy.
Well, he's like, "Is that it?" Like, he was about to call them out for writing it wrong, but he said it wrong. That's how I
Yes,
felt. Like, "Are you sure you wrote that correctly?
because
Not that he messed it up."
he's dyslexic, isn't he not? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense. But I thought it was just the sweetest little kind of blip ever.
yeah. And then I just want to announce The Maids officially started its run. Yurin Ha is in the US. She's currently, I don't know if she's residing in Brooklyn, but that's where the play is occurring. And she has already reprised this role. So she came over. She's just redoing this role from a stint she did of this play, I think in England. They're having her reprise it for it started on May 17th. It's running until I think it said June 24th.
Mhm.
So, in the midst of filming season 5, she already had this commitment. So, I think that's going to play into scheduling, but she only missed the last 3 days, 4 days, depending on when she traveled, of recording at Ranger House if she was part of any of those scenes. So, I think like what's going to be during this month of her stint here is probably Scotland or whatever, like nothing that Sophie would need to be a part of. And along that news, next Friday, yours truly and our third wheel admin Kay and her affianced, our almost husband, they get married next month. Congratulations. We're heading to Anne's house. Well, not to her house. We're staying in a hotel, but we're heading that way and we're all going to go see it next Saturday. Uh, is that the 30th? I think so. We're driving on Friday. I don't remember.
In other non-official Bridgerton news, did you see that post that was done on the main Bridgerton page by one of our elders? Elders? I know words. Mentors? No. Moderators. Elizabeth. And
Moderators,
it
elders.
was
The elders have spoken.
the
That's what you need to
elders.
say when you ban someone.
God, we sound like a cult now. We probably are. Someone released what each actor got paid for season 4. And
Mhm.
I don't know how much I believe it. Some of it seemed on point, but some of it I thought was a little bit skewed.
I've seen well, they've posted pay in the past before, and Julie Andrews is spot on. Like, she's the highest paid person.
No, 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 not the season. So who do you think was the highest paid for season 4?
Nicola,
Yeah. Then second?
the other lady Whistledown,
No,
Julie Andrews, or
no,
Johnny Bailey.
Johnny Bailey. So it was Nicola at
I
3.5 mil.
remember seeing it, but I don't remember how much it was, so
Nicola was a 3.5 mil. Johnny Bailey was 3 million. And then I
yeah.
can't remember who was next, but Yaren Ha was 1.5 million to Luke Thompson's 1 million, which I
Yeah, but,
was
like, Claudia and stuff's only, like, 700,000 or something like that.
900,000, I
Yeah.
believe, from memory. But I was really surprised that Yaren Ha would get paid $500,000 more than Luke Thompson, who's already established himself on the show and is a little bit more established as an actor, though granted, most of it is theatre.
It's because most of it is theater, because 'cause you're asking and it's also his management team. Your salary negotiations are done by your management team, and it's
Mm,
quite possible that his contract was done prior like I said, the first season, they would have all probably only contracted for 1 season with options to continue because
yeah.
it's potentially an 8-season show, and then when they picked up season 2, they would have been a little more aggressive with contracts, but it's possible that Luke Thompson himself or his team didn't think that it would ever get to his season because somewhere along the lines in season 2, they already announced that Luke and Nicola were gonna be season 3.
Yeah. Well, so Julie Andrews was paid 1.2 million. I think Ruth Gemmell was around the 900K mark. And then the lowest
Yeah.
paid, obviously, being our younger siblings, which was Gregory and Hyacinth, Will and Florence at 200K each, which makes sense because they're obviously,
Their contracts for this season were negotiated before they were 18, so they were negotiated by their parents and their management teams, and that makes sense.
yeah,
Now that they're
I
18
think,
and doing other projects and can work longer hours, they're gonna get paid a heck of a lot more starting season 5.
yes, but I think okay for their age seemed about right for the amount of hours they could do and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right. Well, I think Shondaland and Netflix got a steal because as much as they had Hyacinth in the scenes, and because they were both 18, but they already said Gregory was off to Eton or whatever. Hyacinth was in every episode, every scene, but they
Mm.
negotiated her contract when she was under 18,
And
I'm sure.
to be
So
fair, Florence
they got
also
a
did have
steal.
the most, what do you call it, Instagrammed, TikToked, like reeled moment of the entire season.
Yeah. That was after she got paid. So
Yeah.
I think season 5, if we get to see the income again, we're gonna see it be way higher.
Okay. Now we must make haste
One more
into
one more
more
news.
news.
And this is just because I'm not a video game person, but there's one game ever in my life that I have got sucked into playing that I could lose 8 hours of my life. I just come up for air and it's been 8 hours gone, and that is The Sims. I love The
Oh,
Sims,
yes.
and Bridgerton collabed with The Sims. They have a whole Bridgerton add-on thing with, like, masquerade ball costumes and
Which I was
everything.
a little bit surprised by because I didn't think there'd be a huge crossover in audiences, to be honest.
I think a lot of women like The Sims.
No, no, no. I meant the age range of the average Bridgerton viewer.
Yeah, but The Sims is for it came out, was brand new in my generation.
Mm. And I grew up playing it too.
I was an adult, like, that was my jam, that was my game. I would go house sit for my friend when she went on vacation, and I would just play The Sims
None of my
all day
friends,
long.
we all have kids. We don't have time to sink 8 hours into anything except for, like, maybe if we're lucky, sinking 8 hours into sleep on a really good day.
Well, and that's what I'm afraid of because Bridgerton news, Patty was laid off. I am afraid of starting the game because I can get sucked in, and this gal's gotta get another job. So, I've enjoyed the rest that I've been getting, and I'm definitely a lot less burnt out than I was. But yeah, I want to play it. I wanna see what it's like, and I think I'm going to invest that, but I have to create boundaries for myself ahead of time and rules, like, I can only play it on a certain day, something like that, so that it doesn't consume my life.
Also, in things that have consumed our lives recently, is I finally went and finished watching The Other Bennett Sister with our lovely Miss Barrigan, who's actually at the very start of this episode. She did an apps Ella Broccolari.
Ella Broccolari, yes,
She did the most phenomenal job.
fantastic.
She's clearly playing an autistic character, and she made her the most heartwarming,
Endearing.
genuine, endearing character that I think I've like. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed watching her in the way that she was able to connect because autistic people are quite often shown as struggling to connect with others. And she did with the wrong people, but the people that were also like she found a way to connect to people that also struggled to connect to others in a way that I just found so beautiful. If you're wanting something super, super wholesome and the same kind of vibes as Pride and Prejudice, but
Pride and Prejudice, 1995.
less showy, more. I found it so much more in depth emotionally than Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice was more surface level for me, to be honest, than like with everyone just hiding their feelings all the time. This one just dug into the feelings. We got to know Mr. Collins and his feelings. We got to see way
And I
more of the aunt and uncle, and I loved them.
And I think that's because Lizzie follows Regency etiquette because she has to rise above the
Yes,
family she's
because she's
from,
the
right?
Daphne.
To
Yeah.
get a good match. To get a good match. Well, no, Jane was the Daphne.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But because Mary struggled so much with, and I love it, it makes a perfect platform for this type of Regency where you do get feelings spoken when they shouldn't be because they do play her as autistic, and autistic people people struggle with social cues, and Mary struggled with social cues and struggled to stop her mouth when she knew she shouldn't be saying what she was, like,
Or singing
with
what she was.
poor Mr. Sparrow and her telling him she couldn't dance with him again and why, and it just sounding awful as it comes out of her mouth and
I
she
was
hates it,
so
like,
happy we
oh,
had a redeeming moment from that and that he got his
yeah,
happy
me
ending.
too. But and I want us to do, like I want us to do a YouTube of what people should watch during the Bridgerton drought, and this show's definitely on the list.
Oh, like, number 1 on the list by a long shot.
Yeah, so, we will have our time to really fully talk about it because it's so good.
Yes.
But yes, now we can definitely make
Make
haste.
haste into today's, and it was all yellow. Look at the stars, the way they shine for you and everything you.
Okay, so I have notes. I mean, I was hoping to create an outline before this got going, but I got, waylaid. But I kind of want to just start with the overall, like, talking about how the wedding was planned, because obviously we've discussed it before. Colin planned the wedding ceremony, Portia planned the wedding breakfast. This was all Colin all day long. Like, he planned every detail of this. And the biggest detail we know of why I believe it's Colin and not the bride's family is because when Portia's talking about the wedding breakfast and she wants it to be grand and it's going to be all these people and whatnot, she's talking about getting a quintet, right? Five
Yes.
strings. They were all in the corner, but there's seriously like 8 to 10 string instruments
An
sitting
octet,
in the
if you
corner,
will.
at least an octet, if not a decatet or whatever
I
10 is.
I love her, anatheatr tríodas mynd exi efter octo yn e thega, because it's all done in Greek, so thega,
Right. I think it's decatet, I think. Dectet, maybe?
unless it's done in, not Greek.
Oh,
Uh,
Greek, this smells good.
oh, what is our language that comes before Greek? That's based on Greek.
Latin.
Latin, thank you, I know words. It's probably done in Latin then.
So I want to talk about, I mean, there's so much symbolism in this wedding. We obviously had a whole behind the scenes video, which a lot of my notes came from
Yes.
on these things from the wedding. So, I mean, we can just start with flowers. Obviously, Colin was marrying, not so much Featherington, I don't think. More Penelope because the flowers are yellow. There's not much green
No.
aside from the greenery of the flowers in this space at all, but there's definitely a blending of yellows and
I
blues.
think it's because Colin doesn't really see Penelope as a Featherington. In his eyes, she's always been Bridgerton adjacent. Like,
And I don't think he's the only one because I have some notes later about the wedding
uh,
ceremony itself that
before we dive into the actual flowers, Patty and I had like, this is not real life at all. This was just what we wished had happened. And we talked about how we think that Colin had planned out the actual wedding itself. And so we
Mhm.
put out this fan theory out there that Colin had contacted Sir Philip Crane to ask about what flowers to use in the symbolism. And so we had one of our closest fans, listeners, Sarah, and she wrote,
Sarah.
when I wrote fans, I meant one of our closest listeners who wrote a fan theory. My brain's just mixing up words. She wrote a fanfic for us of Sir Philip writing to, no,
You can read it on AO3. Just look
Colin
up,
writing
I think
to
it's
Sir
like,
Philip to ask about the wedding flowers.
yep, you can find it over there. And she has other stories going on as well. But
And she
yes,
wrote
as
me
we
the
dive
most
into the
beautiful one
flowers,
for my birthday ever. It was so gorgeous.
it was beautiful. And
I
I
don't know
love that
why.
she got me over there for your
I don't
birthday.
I feel like I would be Benedict's daughter. Well, either Benedict or Collins. Like, I would come from one of those two brothers.
Yeah, I'm Eloise's daughter if I'm a Bridgerton at all.
I mean, like, if I had to choose between the girls, I would be Hyacinth's daughter.
Mhm. I'm not choosing, I just know based on my personality, I'm Eloise's daughter.
That could be actually like a fun poll to put out. Like, if you had to be born to one of the Bridgerton siblings, who would be your parents and why?
Yeah, I would be. We must do it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go digging into flowers. The first flowers that were used were yellow roses, specifically because this is friends to lovers and they represent love like every other rose, but the yellow
Friendship
rose
loves.
specifically represents friendship. Weddings traditionally have some color rose, so I felt like they were going to have one that's like the best one to choose. And then they have blue hyacinths, which I'm sure Hyacinth was like, "That's me." And this is specifically they are in the arches, but this is specifically in the bouquet as well.
I
Blue
also feel like
hyacinths are
sorry, you go.
the blue hyacinths represent seeking forgiveness and sincere care. And they said that's more along the lines of Penelope. Penelope
Mm,
still feels like Colin is mad and that she needs his forgiveness.
I also feel like this was also an homage to their father because that was what he was out picking when he died.
Yes, I think most of the time when you lose a family member prior to a major life event like this, you find ways of including them.
Mm,
My sister for family weddings, like, she just had her own wedding, and a couple years ago, my nephew got married.
mhm.
She always has a table with their pictures and a sign that says, like, "Their spirit is with us today," or something like that. It's cuter than what I'm saying, but she does it at every wedding. It's its own table, it's its own thing, and it's a way to honor them and to acknowledge that they are still here even though they're not here in person, and I think using the blue hyacinths was exactly that as well.
We saved a chair for Stephen's mum on the day.
Yeah.
Well, that also goes along with the blue hydrangeas, which you asked me to look up, which is very, very similar to the hyacinth, but it means sincere apology, regret, and forgiveness, which you could not pick a flower that is more impactful in this moment than that because it's not just about the apology, it's about the forgiveness. Because this entire scene is all about we may not be over it yet, we may not have overcome everything we've got to get through, but like, this is the moment where we're choosing each other regardless of the mistakes
Yeah.
made.
And that's so beautiful to me because they're talking to each other. Here's where the tears come for the first time for me this episode. Because the blue hyacinths specifically, they talked about those being in Penelope's bouquet because she's seeking forgiveness and there's no hydrangeas in her bouquet at all. The hydrangeas are on the
Came from
arches and the
Colin.
end caps that came from Colin. So he's telling her that he's sorry and he forgives her. See, he's not mad. I'm going to say he's not mad so many times in this because so many people think angry Colin was the whole of the second half.
He's processing.
But after the Modiste conversation, he understood her motives. He understood the thought process behind what she did and understood that she was being loyal in her own way to her friends and family and trying to protect them. It just didn't work out in her favor. So this is him like they're speaking to each other through flowers, which I love. Um and it makes me wonder too, like if her bouquet, if he would have had her bouquet made, or if she would have had that made separately, just with the direction of use blue and yellow. I would like to play on that thought process because they never talk about it. But that I mean, it's like a call and answer. She's like, "I'm seeking your forgiveness," and he's like, "Done. You don't need it. You are forgiven." And then one of the next flowers that is specifically in her bouquet, I'm sure are within the arches as well because they're a more small, delicate flower, is yellow larkspur. And this represents their friendship light and fun,
Mhm.
a desire to be humorous, having an open heart, and sincere dedication. Like they're always giggling together. So I thought this was the perfect flower meaning
They're also
for.
so sincere in their belief of each other. Like, Colin truly believes that Penelope has the most pure of heart, that she always has the most pure of intentions, which we see in season one. You know, you are really so good, Penelope. Like, he thinks that she could never do anything out of spite. And so I think that's a big thing that he has to reconcile when he learns about Lady Whistledown because he's like, that's not the Penelope that I've always known and loved. And then we've got Penelope, who has always genuinely believed in Colin's skills as a writer, his kindness as a human, his heart.
Mhm.
She's always believed in the core of him more than anyone else.
Yeah, they saw things in each other that they couldn't quite believe or see in themselves, and they do just have such a sincere connection with each other, and I love that.
Well, and I think that goes back to the whole symbolism this season of mirrors, mirroring, especially because we talk about the symbolism of Penelope being the sun and Colin being the moon. And what does the moon do? But reflects back the light that the sun shines.
Why are you saying this now? This would be so perfect at the end of my notes at the end of the ceremony.
I know I have parts of it then too, but it just it's gonna flow when it's gonna flow, okay? Like I feel
I
like
know, but when we get there and I read it, you're gonna be like, "Yeah."
I'm so sorry. I haven't actually read your notes because I was like, you know what?
It's okay.
I skimmed very quickly, but
We are like-minded individuals. This is not the first time this has happened.
it goes along with symbolism and mirroring because th the sun and the moon mirror each other in a way. Well, I mean, not so much the moon to the sun, but you know what I mean? Like, the moon reflects back the
Reflects the
sun's
sun's
light.
light. Mhm.
And it's not to say that I mean, the moon doesn't have its own light, but that's as far as the symbolism goes. Because Colin has his own light.
I think they played the sun and the moon, though, because how it was written, Cohen doesn't. But that's the only negative thing I'm gonna say this whole episode, I maybe. So, the last flower that was used is called a veronica, and this flower represents loyalty, fidelity, and love. So, all of these flowers together are had we have a friendship that's light and fun, we can be humorous together, but we also are choosing to be loyal to each other, to be faithful, to love each other, and we will always forgive when the other seeks forgiveness. And I love how all of the symbols of the flowers play into this relationship of Colin and Penelope for us. And it literally is a conversation between the two of them before she even gets down there and they start taking their vows.
Yes, and I love that the props people that we actually got the behind the scenes um, footage of them talking about the symbolism of each of these flowers because, like, so many of them, so many people on the internet are like, it's not that deep. Why are you reading into it this much? Like, they didn't think about it. They just picked something pretty. And no, they did not just pick
Mm-mm.
something pretty. They chose with such intention. I do not believe that pretty much anything in Bridgerton is chosen just because it looks good. I mean,
No,
it has that purpose also.
these creatives put far too much energy and their time and their blood and their sweat and their tears into their part of this production. It is not by chance that something is in there. As we move on to the dress, because there's
I was about
so
to say,
many
can we
things
move on?
about this
Yes.
dress.
Do you know what Penelope's dress I don't know why it gives me this imagery, but the lines of it and the waistline and the way that the back falls on it. Do you know what the first thing I thought of when I saw this dress, even though the colors are different, it doesn't have the blue accents?
Who's that? Because I have my own vision too.
Princess Odette, our swan
From
princess.
that could be. When I watched this dress move down the aisle, and they specifically talk about I'll start with the train or the veil
Yeah.
because originally the veil was intended to just be a 1950s veil. It was going to go
Yes.
down to right about the waist, but when they built the train and they wanted to kind of cover up the train and so it doesn't get seen until the wedding breakfast really,
Mhm.
then the train became longer and it became more of a grand moment going down the aisle. And it makes me think of if you've ever seen The Sound of Music when Maria's walking down the aisle and she has
Yes.
that huge long train and it's
Yes.
fanned out. Like that's exactly what I thought of when Penelope walked down the aisle was Maria because that's another I mean, they were definitely enemies to lovers, Mr. Von Trapp and
Mhm.
Maria, but still very similar, like having this huge misunderstanding and then getting married in the end. And like she came from poverty, really. I mean,
Mhm.
Penn comes from a poor family. And to just have this super grand dress and this whole grand affair put on just for her, like it gave me that same vibe.
I don't know if you can call a nun coming from poverty.
Well, no, she was impoverished before she became a nun. She just
Yes.
chose to become a nun because she would have and her family pushed her into it kind of too, because she would have a place to live, food to eat, what
Yeah.
have you. But
Yeah.
she was not of Captain Von Trapp's world at all.
No. The reason why I think I also think of Odette is because of the symbolism around swans and Colin and Penelope. It's not a duck, it's a swan. And then obviously Penelope being I don't want to ever call her an ugly duckling because at no point in
Mm-mm,
history ever has
no.
Nicola
But
slash
this is her
or
swan
Nicola
moment.
ever been anything but a swan. But
Yeah, this
like
is definitely her swan princess moment.
and when I was looking at the internet this morning, like scouring over YouTube and everything for different behind the scenes moments from the scene, the overwhelming response was that this was everyone's favorite wedding dress. Was it traditional at all? No, it was done in the style of 1950s. But at the same
Hmm.
time, I won't begrudge that at all because they made Nicola they designed this with Nicola in mind, and I think that's a really beautiful
Yes.
thing to do it in a way that's still
Well, and
with
they
a
designed it with
stretch.
Penelope in mind because, as I've said before, several times, when Penelope is feeling under her mother's thumb and groomed by her mother, she's in straight up yellow, some of the worst
Yes,
yellows,
yes.
mustard yellow. When she's still pen, but feeling a little more bright, she's in the brighter yellows. But when she's feeling herself, she
Yeah,
is in a mixture of pink with yellow. And
yeah.
this dress is the palest pink and the train is the palest yellow,
When I say it was made with Nicola in mind, what I mean is her coloring and her softness and her gentle curves
and her
and
shape.
her small stature. They made the most exquisite, perfect dress that the tiny little cap sleeves and the way that it's almost a rounded neck, but then they put this tiny, tiny little, like almost like pin little V into it that just
Mhm.
beautifully complemented her décolletage because she has the most gorgeous soft features. And I think that they absolutely chose right putting her in that blush pink. Granted, I think there was also a slight bit of symbolism there that virgins wore white, so she wore blush.
Yes, but and I'll give you that because they put Edwina in white, but white dresses didn't start until Queen Victoria, which was
Yes.
who got born in Queen Charlotte. So it was not a Regency era thing to wear white. But yes, they had her in an off-white blush pink. And I think because, it gives the symbolism of the bloom of her
Pure.
youth. She's still pretty naive to things, but she also isn't pure as the driven snow either.
Yes.
Right? But I love and having watched the only reality used to watch reality, but I don't anymore, Project Runway, when they talk about drape. This dress is a lesson in drape. It is draped
Yes.
perfectly. And in the behind the scenes talking about the dress, the embellishments department, they talked about making all of those little
Those
pleats on the
tiny
sleeve.
little plates and they're so and then they
And there's
continue
so
those pleated those little
hundreds of rosettes.
yeah.
Hundreds of rosettes, these little beads. This dress took 3 full days, 7 to 9 different people working on their various parts. Over 150 hours
Uh,
of work just for this dress. So, like, there is everything means something.
well,
Everything means something
speaking of
because there's so
everything
much work that goes into it.
speaking of everything means something, and I do wanna circle back to the dress quickly, but one of the other pieces of information we found out in the behind the scenes footage, right? Nicola specifically tells Luke in the behind the scenes wedding footage that she got the props team to make her a ring with a
Mhm.
bee on it.
Yes.
Which I love that that came from Nicola because I think Nicola and Luke and the whole Bridgerton cast are so in tune with their characters that they know exactly what works. And I don't go as far as to say that they would ever insult the props or costuming team or anyone to say that they're doing it wrong. But I think they do
Or
have little inputs to say, hey,
they
I
weren't
think
doing it wrong,
no, but
the
I do think
showrunner.
they have little they have little moments that they're like, "Hey, I think that my character would really like this," or they would do this, or they would include this, and I love that they get those little moments where it shows us how thoroughly they know their characters.
Yeah, and I think they do know them because what is one of the things that we were like, where's the bee, right? Where is the
Mhm,
bee? There's supposed to be a bee. And she knew that and she had them make her a ring with the bee on it.
mhm.
So, since we're talking about the dress, I want to give props to John Glazer and Georgie Sayer, who are the head costuming
Yes.
director and assistant, as well as Sarah Blackman, the milliner, and Lottie Fenby in her department, because honest to God, this dress is phenomenal. I mean,
Like,
there's not I mean, if Phyllis Diller and Perez Hilton or anyone else who's done red carpet fashion reviews, nobody would say that this dress was a flop. Like,
no,
this
never.
dress was
Well, even the most critical of them all, what was her name? She died on the operating table getting plastic surgery done.
wasn't that Phyllis Diller?
No, no, no. She had a talk show where she used to judge
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
way more
Oh, what's
famous.
her name? Well, her and Phyllis Diller was friends. That's why I said
Yes.
Phyllis Diller. Dang it.
Yeah. But this lady actually had a talk show about judging
Yes.
outfits.
Oh my god. And she was a comedian. She was a
Yes,
comedian. Oh my
yes.
god. Hold
Her
on.
face
I'll
is
look it up. Keep talking.
her face is right there. This, I don't think anyone in the history of ever, like, as someone who's also very short in stature, but likes a dramatic moment, it is really it is a really fine balancing act to get a dress that has
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers, thank you so much. To get a dress that has a big impactful wow without overwhelming, because Nicola is very petite. So to get a dress that had that wow moment but without overwhelming and making her look bigger is actually really amazing, because like when you're short, like it's hard to do a big dress like that. But the way that they did that train, where it didn't come from her hips, it came from her waist in the back, and how it kind of tapered in and then flowed out, was just a masterclass in how to. Have you seen those YouTube videos or the skits or shorts or whatever they call them? And it is and it says something along the lines of when a designer loves women, and it shows you
Mhm.
like a masterclass of what dresses look like when the designer clearly like understands the female gaze and understands
Yeah.
a woman's curves and body. And I feel like whoever designed this dress understood the assignment and got it
Well,
perfect.
and the train was actually not clipped up like that except for the wedding breakfast. It ran long under the veil.
Yes.
It ran down past the skirt, but those 2, like, in the back at the bustle where you see it clipped up and it makes
Yeah.
that V,
Yeah.
that was clipped up so she could dance at the wedding breakfast. So
Yes.
they made it versatile so it could be used in the wedding breakfast scene
Well,
as well.
because one thing we know about Pollen is they dance.
Yes. Her dress needed to be able to get, boogie down in it. So now there's going to be some more symbolism in terms of, well, I'll just get into that now. In terms of how this aisle looks before we actually go into the ceremony, there are 3 arches, all festooned in these flowers. And I think the 3 arches to me represent the stages of friends to lovers, right? So it's you are friends, then you become lovers, or you fall in love with each other and it moves into marriage. So there are these 3 stages of their relationship that Penelope has to walk through for them to be together in front of the preacher.
Well, and it also kind of goes along with their whole Eros and Psyche, like the whole stages or challenges the trials that she had to go through. And
There's 3 challenges, yes, as well as it is season 3, they are season 3, so it has 3 arches as well. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then digging into the atmosphere a little bit more into how, knowing this is Colin that planned this. We have a choir, like a whole choir, 2 rows of people. We have a huge, like we said, dectet or octet. The minister himself is not the only clergyman there. There are clergymen sitting over on the right. Like everybody who is a part of this church is present. There are flower girls, which weddings of this in this era tended not to have flower girls, but there were flower girls at this wedding.
I still feel bitter about the fact that they didn't even, they could have sent Violet to go to not Aubrey Hall. I know the name. Clivedon?
Clifton, yeah.
To Clivedon to go and collect her grandchildren. And
Right.
Daphne can't make it because they're expecting their next. So I've gone and taken the children, and they were the flower girls. Like there was ways to incorporate Daphne without her
Mhm.
being there.
Right. Or just not have flower girls at all because weddings in this time period did not
Yes.
have all of this finery. I mean, royal weddings would have, or, the royal children, but not a third son, right? But I think Colin knew that. He wanted this to be a huge affair. He wanted this to be the biggest thing happening in the season for Penelope's sake. He wanted Penelope to be seen. He wanted everyone to see that she was walking down the aisle to him, that he was choosing her. This is all for show, to show the world that Penelope Featherington got her man, right? Like he knew she had been teased by her family about him, and that nobody thought the 2 of them were courting, even though they did all of the steps of courtship. They danced twice at that same dance that Daphne danced with Simon. They literally did everything, but nobody thought twice about it because nobody thought Penelope could get Colin. Colin didn't think Colin could get Penelope. Nobody looked at it like it was anything, and he was gonna make them see that it was something. And
I've got one dad calling me, one dad messaging me. Are you okay?
and then I just wanna point out that every single pew is full, okay?
To the brim.
There are like 10 to 12 pews. There's probably anywhere from 6 to 8 people per pew. This is solidly an 80 to 100 people wedding guests,
I
which is
had,
unheard of for that time as well.
to be honest, I would have said
Well, I
maybe like
counted the
150.
pews and did quick math.
Yeah. It was
In that
pretty
church,
chockers.
there was definitely more people at the wedding breakfast because Portia invited people just to the wedding breakfast.
Hmm.
But all of these invitations had to go out. You still got invited, which is why I'm saying, like, and the one dude is not Fife people. Fife would not be invited to this
No,
wedding.
I was like, I know the guy's face. I just am struggling to put a name to it. But I know that we've seen him throughout
I
it
don't, I mean, yes, but he doesn't have a name. He's not Lord anybody. He's just a background
because it
character.
wasn't
And
wilding either.
people, no, he's literally a nobody. And people thought he was Fife. And do they have the general same coloring? Yes.
Mm,
But Fife has a much longer face and a much broader forehead.
yes. Just a general sneer to him.
Now, as we start sliding into the wedding scene itself, we enter in on the choir singing. I did try to Shazam. It's some old Latin church song. It could not identify it. So I couldn't get anything there. But as we see people filling the pews and it's rather crowded, we see the Mondriches are almost like lording it, like holding
Yes.
court. They're still standing there as people are walking in,
So
waving to people. People are waving to them.
what kind of confused me is because in this moment, and I think this is one of the most superfluous scenes, I will put that out there. Like, I know a lot of people basically say any scene with the Mondrick family is superfluous, but a lot of their scenes do feed into the main storyline. This one doesn't feed into anything, so I don't really understand why it's there because they're almost greeting guests as if it is their family wedding that is being attended. You know how you have dual people, like, so at today's weddings, you will quite often have
Mhm.
greeters who are close to you, maybe an
Ushers, yeah.
uncle or a best man, or, you know, people who are greeting as the guests are arriving. Hey, can you come sit over here? This is what time things will be starting before the celebrant gives you the rundown and whatnot. These are just
Right.
greeters that kind of give you an idea. And usher, yeah, as you said, they're not. So why are they like holding court in the middle of someone else's wedding as if they are important? Like, and not to say that they're
I
not
don't know,
important to the
but
Bridgerton family, but
will is important, and I'm gonna point this out now. I saved it from the flower conversation, and I'm putting it here because all of the boutonnieres are the same, the wedding boutonnieres. Anthony and Benedict are both wearing them.
mhm,
Colin is wearing his, but also John is wearing one, and Will is wearing one.
unofficial
Gregory also has
groomsmen.
a boutonniere, but it's not the same flowers. It's still blue, but it's not the same.
He's a junior groomsman.
Right. So he's like part of the pack, but not quite there yet, as we see him trying to be in season 3, right? He's trying to get them to see him as grown up, much like Colin had in previous seasons. But I love that Colin included Will and John as even though they nobody stood up with him, they were part of his quote unquote wedding party. They
I
that is the club.
This was just a scene that just I was like, "Oh no, are the Mundriks kind of getting a bit uppity and ahead of themselves because they're kind of looking around and they look at the Barragans and um, you know, we forgot to attend their luncheon, and then Will's like, well, now they're gonna want us even more, as if like they're so self-important, and it just made them
No, the way he said it is they're finally figuring out how the ton works. It's kind of like they're not self-important, but kind of like that they're proud of themselves that they're figuring out
mm,
how it works, right? And they
it
they see that those steps are working. They're getting more popular and because all they want to do is they want to keep the name of Kent in good standing for when their son comes of age. So they need to play this game. And it's kind of like when you're playing a brand new game or you're playing something for the first time and you're like, oh, if I do that, I get more points. Or if I do that,
I don't know,
like they're
think
figuring out the rules.
I think it was just the fact that they chose one of the nicest families in the ton to kind of almost belittle in a way that just didn't sit well with me. Like, the Barragans are a very sweet family. If they had chosen to do it to the Livingstons, or the Hardigans, I
Yes.
would not have cared. But the fact
Well,
that
because
they were
The Livingstons came in, and
yes,
Cressida Jr. is Miss Livingston.
yes,
I was pretty upset that she was invited, but Cressida wasn't there because she's locked in a tower. So I felt like she was
a
representing the
stand-in.
Cressida vibe, because Colin would want a snarkety, that kind of person, the Mean Girls girl, to witness this.
Mhm.
I almost wish they would have switched the lines, switched the families they belong to. And so, like, oh, there's Miss Livingston. We missed her luncheon. And then it's like they're snubbing the Livingstons,
Which
but the
I would not
Barragans
have
get a
thought
wave.
twice about,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as if like, "Oh, well, we don't really wanna associate ourselves with that kind of family." That would make sense, but when it's a nice family, it just felt a little bit mean-spirited.
Yeah. I can see where it would look that way. I kind of felt like they didn't intend to miss her luncheon. Something came up, I feel like, and they're like, "Oh, we missed it." Like Alice is going, "Oh, we missed her luncheon." And he goes, "That just means she'll want us to come even more to the next one, right?"
Yeah.
Like it's the rules. This is what they expect. Um, but I love how, like, they are ultimately sitting very close to the family. They're not in with the family. They're not in the first 2 rows, but they're not very far back at all. And it shows you how important they've become to the family. And Will is dressed in blue and gold while Alice is in purple and green. So they're not matching, which they normally match husbands and wives clothing. And this also tells me that he's wedding party. So I love that that Colin wanted all of his brothers to represent him. And then I just want to point out, while there's redheads on both sides of the aisle, there is only one redhead that scooches in on Bridgerton's side. We've seen her walk around. We've seen her in Hyde Park, I think, once, and then in the market scenes once. In my little imagination, this doesn't come from any behind the scenes. It doesn't come from Just Brownell. It comes from only my brain. I've decided that is Georgiana, because isn't Georgiana the redhead from the Rokesbys?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've decided that's who that is, and she scooched in on Bridgerton's side because she's the redheaded aunt over there, wanting one of the babies to be a ginger baby just like her, because she was the solo redhead at the time.
So there's if we're talking about guests, there's a
Mhm.
there it is. One moment to my eyes. Other side, other side. So there's 2 girls who are standing on the Featherington side, and they're standing with a ginger dude, if that helps. And one sister looks snobby, one sister looks really happy for Penelope. They are wearing what I can only
Green.
describe as yellow and green lily pads. Like,
I assumed they were staff. Like, honestly, I assumed that they were some of the new staff that Portia had hired at the beginning of this season with her money.
no, they don't look like they're staff. They just look like they're maybe also of lower standing in society. Their dresses aren't as finely tailored. They look kind of haphazardly put together. I was actually quite surprised that they had dresses that looked half finished.
They're Portia's relations from Cornwall.
So, no. So we're because I've my notes up. We've been jumping all over. So they're very, very garish dresses. Like, if I were to describe
Mhm.
them, they look like Featheringtons, and I don't know how to say that any nicer than what I did.
They're definitely Featheringtons.
I sort of wish that there was 3 of them, because those 2 girls kind of remind me of the Penelope and the Prudence of it. And I kind of wish there was a third one, because they do have almost like nearly strawberry blondie kind of hair, right? And I
Mhm.
sort of wish that they were like the representation of
Felicity.
where Penelope had come from, where she was in season 1 with her 2 sisters, because the other sister's got like a sad, sad look on her face, very Prudence-esque, right?
Well, does the ginger dude look like Prudence? Maybe
He's
that
just he's
symbolism is
he's
there.
just ginger. But I kind of wish it was like this, because like Penelope very, very clearly is looking at her. The screen is focusing on these girls specifically. And the
Mhm.
reason that I wish there was 3
That's the
of
only
them,
time Penelope looks toward her side of the church.
yes, because I just wish that it was they had this like little moment of, this is where you'll come from and this is where you're going to. And
Right.
like, and the reason that the young girl is looking at her so happily is like she gives Penelope hope that there is hope for her out there that she can get her happy ending, her princess, ending as well. And when I say princess, I don't mean anything about the way that this whole wedding is set up. I mean that Penelope gets the fairy tale guy of her dreams.
Yeah, I always kind of felt like one of these two girls, the one that's looking happy, is like kind of a representation of Felicity because Felicity would have been ecstatic at her sister's wedding, and
Mhm.
we don't see the wedding in the book at all. They just say it was nice.
Like, so, because I was gonna ask that, I'm like, we didn't actually see the wedding, but,
Now, if we
like,
go from engagement day to the beginning of the next chapter, she said they got married the week prior,
like,
or so, 10 days to a week.
it's a very, very common thing in books to repeat history, right? In Harry Potter, we see it all the time. Things repeating.
Mhm.
Harry ending up an orphan, and then Teddy Lupin ending up an orphan in the end as well. We see history repeating itself
Yeah.
and kind of how we've learnt from it and whatnot. And I mean, obviously, history repeats itself. So I just kind of, it wouldn't to me have been cheesy to just add a third Featherington there for that little bit of symbolism. No. Yeah.
Well, and I kind of felt like the history repeating itself is that on both sides of the aisle, Penelope has a sister that she's on the outs with, and they both are the two most emotional women for her marrying the love of her life, right?
Hmm.
Prudence is her snarkiest sister, her biggest bully in the home, and Eloise and she have been fighting and arguing this whole time, and the two of them end up being literally the most emotional.
I think Prudence is a bigger bully than Cressida because Cressida, she can escape and go to her own home. But Prudence lives in her home. She can't escape her,
Right.
really. Um, and speaking of emotional, I also forgot to mention that Nicola was saying that on the day that they were filming these wedding scenes, how emotional her and Luke were, both that they were both crying filming this because it felt, I think this just goes to show how much they love their characters and how much they're invested in them. We've heard actors say this before, how like you're desperately rooting for your character to end up with someone. Like in How I Met Your Mother, Neil Patrick Harris was the one who said, "Hey, I think Barney and Robin have real chemistry. I want them to be together." It was never ever supposed to be written in, but because Neil Patrick Harris was like, "No, like I feel chemistry there." And obviously he's a gay man, so he doesn't mean in real life. He just meant as his character, he felt that
Right.
him and Robin had real chemistry. And so they wrote it like that. And I think that Liquor and Luke both have such love for their characters and want what's best for them that this is like such a come to Jesus moment for them. Like they're
Well, and
so
and not
happy to
even
be
that.
getting there.
Tom Verica interviews, he said the same thing. It felt like a real
A real
wedding.
wedding.
In the behind the scenes about the dress, the one of the people from the costuming department said, "This is like an actual wedding." Now, the way she said it sent shippers into a tizzy at the time
Hmm.
because it does not sound like she's, like, saying it's like an actual wedding. She said it's like an actual wedding. The way she enunciated "actual" had them going all over the place because she really does emphasize the wrong word when she says it. Just saying.
Words matter, people.
Words matter and how you say them matters.
Speaking,
Now, we finally
yeah, you go.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to
I
say,
was gonna say we finally get to the family and see how they're taking everything in. You have Anthony looking across the aisle. Violet and Prudence make eye contact. Danky only has eyes for his wife until he peers around, sees that they're looking, and waves at Violet.
so I don't know what happened between getting ready for this wedding and arriving. I have no idea because the entire wedding planning, right? We have Prudence being jealous of her sister, that her sister's getting the wedding that she never got. I never got the carriages. I never got this. I never got that. Well, if you'd married better
Mhm.
than maybe you would have. And to go from that morning nearly crying and sulking and like stamping her feet that it should have been me, I deserved this, to arriving at the wedding and Violet smiles at her and Prudence is twirling on the spot
Yeah.
with happiness. Like,
Kids don't get much attention, and I think getting the attention of Violet Bridgerton at all because she is the
but even
Mayfair's
before
mama.
Violet looks at her, Prudence actually looks genuinely happy to be there.
I think she's happy to be in the front row. I think she likes the atmosphere because we see Philippa and Finch are just all up
So
in each other's biz,
effortlessly in love.
talking about the church, pointing out things. I think Prudence to me looks like a 5-year-old who's told she must behave and she is trying her best. She's fidgeting, she's twirling, like you said, she's kind of twirly,
Mm.
rocking from side to side, looking around, but she's trying her best to behave,
I felt like this
right?
was the biggest switch that we saw in her relationship, not just with her sister, but also with her husband. That from here on
Mhm.
out, they actually seem genuinely in love and not like just someone that she'd married for arm
Like,
candy or, a crest at a moment.
remember, I mean, we hadn't met 2 years ago yet, but almost 2 years ago when we started talking, I talked about this season, like, Colin and Penelope's love spread like
Yes.
pollen, spread and healed people as it went, and I feel like this is the moment. Prudence didn't know how to be a wife, she didn't know how to receive love, she didn't know how to give love because they grew up in this, and she just watched the most open display of somebody. I mean, Finch adores his wife, but
Yes.
Colin worships his wife.
Yes.
And just seeing a man be so proud, like hearing her own husband saying these things, like, "I would marry her twice," all of that stuff, and she's just like, "Ew, that seems facetious to me." That doesn't seem it doesn't ring true. But then watching another man have those same feelings, like he doesn't say the same things, but she can tell he feels the same thing, and she can tell her sister loves him too. That I think she was able to heal and recognize it in herself, and she started softening to Dankworth because of that.
Yes. I feel like this entire wedding is like the actual ceremony setup itself is a is a little representation of what Colin feels inside for Penelope. And I think that Prudence
Mhm.
actually gets it when she arrives there and she's like, this is not a wedding for not a commoner, but a non
No.
important person, a third brother
So
marrying a
let's
third
assume
sister.
so let's assume for the whole fandom out there that says Colin didn't grovel enough over the comment.
Hmm.
Remember, he tells a group of gentlemen at a party, "I wouldn't dream of courting Penelope Featherington, not in your wildest dreams, Fife," and everybody lost their minds. This whole wedding is his apology. That's why the hydrangeas, the apology. He's very publicly saying, "I choose you." This is him making
Pikachu.
up to her this is him
Pika.
making up to her in a very public way because he made the world believe he would never pick her. So this is the biggest apology ever, the most held accountability ever. Like, you are the star of the show. I'm only showing up to say vows. This is all about you. I want everyone to have their eyes on you and to see you get your man. Because once he
Yeah.
realized she had loved him since they met, he now understands why that line hurt her so badly.
Yeah, like, I think Prudence might have actually been expecting to turn up to a very simple, like, maybe Daphne and Simon level.
Mhm.
Because keep in mind, Simon is a duke. He was probably the most desirable non-prince that the Ton had ever seen because not only
Well,
was he a duke, but he was also incredibly handsome. Like he had everything going for him. He had the title, he had the wealth, he had the standing with Lady Danbury, who obviously is known to be the second to the Queen. So he is known
mhm.
to hold great influence in the Ton. And they had a very simple ceremony. And then we've got a
Because
third
everyone
son.
who wasn't royalty back then had a very simple ceremony.
Yes. And now we've got a third son marrying a third daughter, and it is as lavish, if not more lavish, than any event that we've ever seen the Queen host.
Yes. I mean, her almost wedding for Antony and Edwina was elaborate, peacocks roaming the
Yes,
grounds and everything like that. But for a third son on a third son's trust fund with because gotta remember the wedding money really still the
it
bride's family
would
did.
have been Benedict that signed off on this.
Well, I mean, and remember we did the finances back in the day, and a lavish ball only took £500 back then
Mm,
to have a really lavish ball. This wedding is not anywhere near a lavish ball, and Colin was allowed to sign out $2,000, which we know because of the ruby mine things, right? So this wedding cost somewhere under £2,000. I'm going to assume under £500, but in today's money, that's still thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
hundreds of thousands. Because keep in mind,
Yeah.
if Beanley was incredibly sought after and he was earning 4 to £5,000 a year,
Right.
that's a fifth of his income. Sorry, a tenth of his income. I know math. Jesus.
Annual. Well, and this is probably a good spot to put this in. I spoke in the last episode about what Regency weddings were really like from the Snoozatorian on YouTube, and he specifically talked about weddings between 1811 and 1820, and the way an estate was built, and I'm talking the finances of an estate, is much like a business. So there would have been separate money, especially for the girls. The girls have the dowry, right? That was not part of your regular household funds. That was not part of income. It's kind of like a savings account that doesn't get touched. So the fact that Lord Featherington took his daughter's dowries is a huge, big red flag. In this case, because there were so many children, Edmund would have, every time a child was born, he would have sat with the solicitor and, depending on male, female, would have set up these separate ledger accounts for things for their future. Education, like going to Eton, going to Cambridge, doing a grand tour. All of that would have been pulled out at that time, put in some sort of investment, or left as liquid as cash in a bank of some sort, or in a money box, or in a safe at home. And there wasn't a banking system like we have today. So, you know, the lawyer may have held on to the money. A lot of times lawyers were the bank. The solicitor was the bank. Those monies would have been allocated probably within the first year of their life. If they survived to the first year, they would have, because a lot of children don't
Hmm.
survive. And then they would be redistributed back into the funds, however they would have been if the child passed away, or they would have been used for funeral, whatever. So the money that Colin put into this wedding was probably set aside for him to marry someday, set up a house, which he just took over a house that was established as part of their estate already. It was owned by the estate. He was basically, it was a free house. He just went and picked up the key. So none of his money had to go purchase a house. So this is all his own wedding budget. And it looks to me like he probably put extra money into it because weddings were not expensive back then. Two people showed up, they had witnesses, they had a minister, and they got married. If you wanted to have your family there and you had a big family, sure. But he filled every seat, every pew is filled, including strangers, people we've never seen before. It's just filled. So I think that how elaborate this wedding is Colin's comeuppance and why he's asking forgiveness. This wedding is not about how he reacted to Whistledown. This is about the comment. I once publicly denounced ever courting you, but I'm going to shout it to the rooftops of the world and let everybody see me marry you.
Yes. Okay, so we've talked about the Featheringtons a wee bit. Let's talk about, because I loved, actually, one of my favorite parts of the scene is like zooming in and looking at all the different dynamics going on around the church.
Yeah.
Sorry that my tongue is numb because I've been eating ice. Anthony is so in love with Kate. I love how he's like, we have this like hard ass, like super tough exterior of a man. Like, this man's a walnut. Like, you gotta crack through that shell to get to the tasty innards. And he's like, I love weddings. But my favorite response is Kate. I love how she acknowledges, not obviously verbally, but she acknowledges how beautiful this wedding is without letting it diminish the one that she had with Anthony, stating, like, our wedding was perfect, because she's like, this is what Penelope deserves. And it's not like I
And I
deserved
also think,
any less, but obviously you have the wedding that suits you. Like, is every single person out there going to want a big, lavish wedding? No, there's lots of people with anxiety who just want a small, very close affair. Like, Daphne and Simon, you would expect them to have a big lavish wedding because he is a duke. But obviously with his speech impediment, with his proclivities for not loneliness, like just smaller crowds, a bit like John.
isolation. Yeah.
Isolation, like very much like John, actually. And the same with Francesca and John having a small family wedding. It's not like this
Mhm.
wedding was any better than theirs for showiness. It was just that this was a love letter to Penelope, and that's why it was perfect for them.
But I do think because the queen had created such an elaborate wedding for when he was going to marry Edwina,
Mm.
and I think because of the public scandal, they did have a smaller wedding,
Mhm.
right? That Antony saying, I just love weddings, was kind of a way to say, he loved this wedding without saying he loved this wedding because
Yeah.
he didn't want to hurt his wife,
Mm.
like because their wedding was less.
Mhm.
And she's reassuring him that theirs was perfect for them. She didn't need the wedding the queen planned. She didn't need this much wedding. But Colin knows Penelope and he knows she suffered through this whole thing. I talk about as we go through the down the aisle and everything else. Penelope suffered through this whole thing because this is way too many eyes on her. She was panicking the whole time. Her face, she had that look on her face like she did walking through Bridgerton House when she didn't know if he was gonna actually lead her somewhere to tell people he wanted to marry her, right? When she was kind of dissociating. She had that same look on her face most of the time. Kate just she wants to reassure Antony, and I love that moment for them because we don't see their wedding.
Yes.
So I love this moment between them, and it's enough for me.
To
I
me,
liked their season.
their wedding was at Aubrey Hall with just their families.
Yes, I think it would have been at Aubrey
Very,
Hall. It
very,
would have just been very close.
very similar to my cottage wedding. That's in my mind
Yeah.
what I'm picturing.
It would have been out on the field where they play Pall Mall. They probably played Pall Mall that day. It would have been intimate, small, perfect for them. I think their wedding was perfect. Do we see it? No. Do I need to see it? No.
Yes. I do feel bad for Kate that they used up the budget on Edwina's. When I say the budget, I mean the Bridgerton
Bridgerton budget. Yeah.
show budget on the wedding. So they did not have the budget to do another wedding.
Yeah.
Because I always say that the wedding, I don't know. What do you think?
I think I almost died on corn. I had a kernel of corn go down the wrong pipe. Oh my goodness.
This wasn't a euphemism, folks. It's actually corn.
Okay. I'm alone in my house. You can't give me the Heimlich maneuver from New Zealand.
I did actually see, I don't know what
I know how to do
show,
it to myself.
I don't know what show it was, but guy was streaming with a girl and something happened and he had to call the police from his country and say, "Hey, go and save her in
Yeah.
her country." And they're like, "What country are you calling from?" And thought it was a prank call. And he was like, "No, we were streaming together and someone broke into our house and kidnapped her or something or other."
Yeah, I mean, I took CPR, so I know how to give myself the Heimlich maneuver if I ever have to, but
Throw yourself over a chair.
it's the joy of hypermobility
Hmm.
because your body doesn't process or use collagen correctly. So everywhere you have connective tissue doesn't act the way it's supposed to. So
I
I
choke
choke
on
on
I
stupid shit
choke on
a
my
lot.
own spit on the daily.
Yeah. So what did you wanted to know that I know? Whatever.
Hmm.
Before I almost died.
I don't even remember.
Oh,
Do you think that this wedding is probably I personally think that this wedding is probably one of the single biggest budget scenes in all of Bridgerton. I know
this season 3 wedding?
yes. I know that
Yes,
the balloon episode was a surprisingly big budget, but I because of
a
obviously
very big
stunt
budget.
people and all of that, but I do think that the flowers for that wedding alone, the costumes for that many people.
Well, and I had this on a separate page because of when I noticed that John was even wearing a boutonniere. The flowers for the boutonniere are different. The flowers in the boutonnieres are forget-me-nots and lily of the valley. And a forget-me-not represents true love, remembrance, and devotion. And lily of the valley is a return to happiness. So all of these members of the club or the bros wearing this particular boutonniere, they're representing Colin's true love, his devotion, and there's a remembrance, and there's looks between Antony and Benedict this whole time, like, just watch those 2 brothers. They
Hmm.
did have a bet. They did know that this was going to happen because they look like 2 papas, like, say, "Oh, these crazy kids finally got together." Like, that's just the look they give each other all the time. But I
Now,
love the lily of the valley being used, and it's a return to happiness because this is supposed to be telling us this wedding, the way it goes off and the way they're no longer in conflict, right? Like fighting. They're not
yes.
fighting anymore. They're still, when you finally decided to make up, there's still things you got to go through to fully get back to good. But this wedding is, they were like, our love, our relationship, our union is far more important than anything we're going through.
Yeah. John is the one person that is like he gives this like kind of look during this episode, during this scene, and I'm like, are the headaches have the headaches already begun? Is this foreshadowing for the next season? Because obviously we see him start with the headaches quite early on to next season, and I do wonder whether this was just a little foreshadowing moment. I don't know whether he was pensive about his like this is a huge show from the Bridgertons of their acceptance of Penelope marrying into the family, and he feels like he hasn't received that acceptance yet, or whether this was a moment of like pre-warning of the aneurysm that's to come.
I would say maybe the second because the fact that he's wearing a boutonniere and he was asked to represent Colin in that way means that at least Colin, Anthony, and Benedict have accepted him.
Yeah.
Now, I will say my notes for this particular moment where we first see the Bridgerton family, all the siblings are kind of talking amongst themselves. Eloise is leaning up and talking to Kate and Anthony.
Yeah.
Francesca and John are looking at each other. Gregory's smiling over at them. Everybody's interacting except Violet. Violet is nervous. Violet is also the only woman in this church, aside from Penelope when she walks down the aisle, that is wearing a veil.
Mm.
I think that's a representation because Colin is the mama's boy. He's always the boy that took care of his mother, took care of her at the balls, like when she drank too much. She was his baby boy. I mean, yes, there's Gregory, but Colin was the babied brother. He was the mama's boy.
He was baby. No one puts baby in the
So,
corner.
wearing the veil, I always felt like she was his first bride. You know how, like, toddlers wanna marry their mom or dad
Mhm.
someday? Like, "I'm gonna marry you someday." I think that was Colin. I think Colin's first proposal was when he was, like, 3 years old to his mother, and she's acknowledging, like, I was his first love, but he's now marrying his true love. So she wore this little veil that only half covered her face, but she is in her own world. Like, she is just focused on her son. Her other kids don't exist at first, and that was right before she looks over and acknowledges Prudence or whatever, but she is just solely focused on Colin, and when he walks in from the rectory and she can tell he's nervous, she's nervous, she's like, "Here we go." You can tell how upset and how nervous and how anxious she has been this whole time that Colin and Penelope have been on the outs because she's not used to seeing this. She doesn't know how they will fix it because these 2 have never fought in their whole existence together.
Mm.
You know this by the way Violet has been acting. She's always shipped them because they were the perfect couple. Like, she saw her and Edmund were the perfect couple. Like,
Mm.
these 2 kids never fought. They were always like peas and carrots, you know, if we're gonna talk Forrest Gump. They're peas and carrots, peanut butter and jelly. Like, they belong together. So she just has been so
My
anxious, not
stomach says
understanding.
otherwise.
Well, you pick your 2 favorite things that doesn't make your tummy upset that go together. But Violet was super anxious for her little children, and she finally breathed a sigh of relief. When she said, "Here we go," you could see her physically calm and settle in because she was scared.
Well, and that's why I love that Colin not only gives Penelope the reassuring look, but before even then, he looks over to his family and gives the smile of like confirmation, like, yes, we're doing this. And that was when Violet is like, okay, we're good. We're good to go.
Right, but I also took that look because the character arc of Colin up to this point has been a boy becoming a man, right?
Hmm.
He wants to be a man, he wants to be recognized as a man, and he walks in and all of his family is there and he's getting married. They
Hmm.
have to acknowledge that he's a grown up now. And there's one other part where he makes a face, which I'll talk about when we get to that part, that seat part. But this is his dream come true. He's finally realized his purpose. He's finally being looked at as a man by his family. And that means so much to him. Like that look he gives his family is it's a little like self-indulgent, self-important, like they all showed up. They're all like, I'm grown up enough to get married. Like
Hmm.
this isn't the weddings Penn and I used to have when we were kids in the backyard. This is real.
Like, and I must admit, even though it sounds condescending, 23, because he's what, 23 here?
Mhm.
23 is not a grown man to me.
It felt grown when I was 23, but
Yeah.
looking back on
Yeah.
23, because my nephew is 23, I
Yes.
still call him a kid,
Like one of my cousins got married
and he's
last
married and has a baby.
last year. One of my cousins got married, and they both turned 25 that year, and I was like, "The babies are getting married." Like, I still see them as
Right?
babies to me, like, even though they're only, 9 or so years younger than me, to me, they're still babies.
Yeah. Yeah, we were all out at the house on Sunday. Our first real tangent. We were out of the h out of I was out at the house on Sunday because my nephew Zachary was having his first T-ball game, which was hilarious.
Because
I
he's
gotta tell you all
he's
about it.
4 now, right? Or nearly 4?
He's gonna be 5
What?
in July. He's only 4
No.
months younger than Ezra. Yeah. And he had his first T-ball game, and he was that kid. He had to play in the dirt. It felt good, he said. It felt good to have his fingers in the dirt. It's what he told me.
Mm.
He was the kid that when he hit the ball, he ran to third and not first.
Mm.
And he couldn't sit still, he was that kid, which is fine. But, I mean, the whole family came out. There was so many of us there. And Chase and Anna brought, Emerson, my little Pisces princess, who's now 14 months old,
Aw.
and she's just starting to use words, so that was very cute. Like, she in a group of people at the house, you kinda lose sight of everybody,
Mhm.
and every time she would see her mom and caught sight of her, she'd be like,
Aw,
and she
so
would say it like,
sweet.
"You're there."
Alright, let's do our final symbolism part before we actually walk down the aisle. I wanna talk about the song "Yellow" because,
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I am a huge Taylor Swift fan, and so I think the "You Belong With Me" is always gonna be my favorite for that reason, but I think as a walking down the aisle song, I do not think that they could have picked a better song than yellow, which
Mm-mm.
is literally like when I looked up the symbolism of yellow, it is all about devotion to someone and doing anything to be with them. The song is all about
Yep.
look at the stars, look how they shine for you. The sun is a star, right? And then some of the lyrics also say, I swam across for you, which kind of rem-
Hero Leander
which kind of reminded me of season 1 comparing himself to a tragedy hero and Leander who was
was never about Marina.
who was guided to swim across this treacherous path so that they could be together every night. And he was guided by heroes. Leander's? I actually don't know who's the girl
The
and who Leander's the girl.
hero is the girl.
Hero's the guy. Yeah,
Leander
yeah.
is the guy.
Hero's light.
The
And
bridge was
this is the
closed
thing
at night, so he had to swim across this river
because
that's
they were forbidden
treacherous,
from being together. So it's
and
like,
she put a lamp on the shore so he could see how to get there.
and it's like now it's the real thing. And Colin is being guided by Penelope's light. Like he thinks about love as these big love stories from Greek and Roman myth, and he thought it was all about Marina, but it wasn't. Did Hero and
Yep.
Leander have a completely tragic ending? Yes, it's because he wasn't obviously looking at a sun like Penelope. But now Colin's found
Well,
his true light, his guiding light.
in my Patty canon, him having loved Penelope forever, I took Hero and Leander being that he was kind of sacrificing himself and doing his duty to marry in a way that would not only help his family, help him look like a man to his family, but also help Penelope in the long run. And he was doing this as an act of love for Penelope, which is why he was willing to marry Marina even in her condition had she come to him and told him. So, the whole symbolism of Hero and Leander and the fact that he drowns is because he's trying to show his love, but in the wrong way. He's going
Yeah.
about it in the wrong way. So, of course, he doesn't survive it. That whole thing blows up in his face. And then the second verse about drawing a line, I drew a line for you,
Yeah.
I think is from season 2. It symbolizes season 2 where he had at first, like, he didn't stand up to his friends, but he stood up to Jack for her, catching the fraud and making him leave town. He protected her. I felt like he was drawing a line and he was telling her, choose you. But before he knew exactly what her feelings were, he didn't want to get that out. So that's where the
I
comment comes
felt
from.
like he
So I
was
think the
drawing
lyrics very much fit their path.
I felt like the drawing a line for you was like, I choose you over everyone. I choose you over my family because his big concern was like, how was Lady Whistledown going to impact his family if it came out? And he's like, I drew a line in the sand for you, like that it is you and me versus the world. That is the line in the sand. And that
Yes.
includes my family. That includes I forsake all others. You are now my numero uno, my
Yeah,
number
like,
one.
she has officially reached the hierarchy of everything he does is for her.
Yes.
We've already seen him evade questions from Benedict, evade questions from Antony to protect her and her secret. Using this song, he's telling her, I choose you. I will keep your secret if you want. I will do whatever you need me to do. You are my purpose.
Well, and it
And
also
a
felt
couple
it
other
felt
things about the song. Go ahead.
like the whole look how they shine for you, look how they shine for you. It is he was guided by the wrong light with Marina, you know? He thought it was sunshine with her, but it wasn't. It was an iPhone torchlight to Penelope's star, you know? And
Yeah.
when you
Well, and
finally feel the real thing,
the,
it can't compare. A phone torchlight will get you where you need to go technically, but it's never going to warm your skin. It's never going to give you vitamin D. It's never going
well,
to nourish you.
if you're going to equate any kind of light to Marina, it would be a crayon drawing of a candle. It doesn't give any light at all. I mean, you can't hold up a picture and expect it to light the way. It's a copy of the real
Mm,
thing. Like if he drew a sun on paper, that's Marina.
mm,
But Penn is the sun. Penn is the
yes.
star. And I love, like, specifically the way this is arranged. They start with the opening of the song because it's very iconic how this song starts. And I love that if this was a play in editing or if they caught the reaction of Claudia Jesse hearing True Colors because they rehearsed and filmed with True Colors at the
Yes.
time,
Yeah.
her reaction to this is so visceral. Go back and watch it when the notes first start. That's when she becomes choked up.
I
And
don't
it's
think
like
that
she realizes,
I don't think that the song has ever I don't think I've ever watched the scene and the song start without me getting the goosebumps, the hair standing up on my
yeah,
arms, and like a full body visceral reaction to just how beautiful and breathtaking this moment is, and like how it just somehow, and this sounds really dramatic, but it somehow like envelops you in their love. This moment feels
yes.
like you feel their love from every aspect.
Right, and I love that, like, in the scene because I think originally Claudia was like, "Oh, True Colors," right? And she just reacts to it, but this reaction is to yellow, and I think she gets choked up because she realizes for the first time just how much her brother does love Penelope, and we need to remember too that this is the contribution of Luke Newton. Luke Newton suggested yellow for this scene
Mm,
specifically. Like, this song needs to be in this season, but he's the one who said the wedding song needs to be yellow.
yeah.
Um, and the way they arrange it, they start it with the beginning because it's an iconic beginning. But when she's walking down the aisle, they skip the middle part and it's the crescendo, the they shine for you, they shine for you. And it gets bigger and bigger. So it's just him telling her she's walking up the aisle. The song is telling her the stars shine for her. Like Colin's love for Penelope is that all of the light in the universe shines down on her and he sees nothing else.
Mm.
Everything is about her.
And
This whole day is
she starts walking down the aisle, and you can see how she is overwhelmed by the amount of light shining on her, the entire ton watching her until she looks up and sees her moon reflecting
mhm.
that light back at her, and it's like this they just have this gravitational pull with each other where it's just calming and settling, and you see your person and the world is right again. And he gives her that little, "You can do it. We can do it. It's you and me versus the world." Like, it's just it's you and me.
Again, like this whole wedding is them communicating with each other without using words.
Mhm.
Like, yes, they say their vows eventually, but the flowers have a language, the song choice has a language. They can have whole conversations with looks. So much happens in this scene that if you're just a passive watcher, you're missing it. So now, if we go in back to the ceremony, the camera, when the camera first shows us Penelope, like everyone else, we panned in, we saw the choir, we saw the families, we saw Colin, we didn't see it truly up close until Penelope. And that camera was on her face. Her whole head didn't even fit in the screen. That camera was so close on her face. And I think that was purposeful for cinematography. So you could feel how nervous she was. That today is about attention on her. And she's been struggling with it. She was
Yes.
struggling with it getting ready at the house. Now she's at the church. It's only been her and her mother, but Portia's not encouraging her or anything yet. Like, Portia asked if she's ready, but I mean, you've attended weddings, your
I've
mother
had a
comes in the
wedding.
room. I mean, I had a wedding.
I had a not I didn't have all the flowers, but my wedding was as big as this one.
Right. But do you always have that moment where your mom walks in, your parents, which her
My
her
dad.
father's not there. Right. Your parent walks in and somebody is there encouraging you, like, because there is nerves. No matter how much you're sure, there's always nerves.
Mhm.
And but Portia is silent. And this camera is right up on Penn's face. And you basically like her makeup is a little showy for Regency, but it's flawless. And she looks alabaster and beautiful, but she also looks glistening, like she's sweating to death. And she is about to have a heart attack and pop out of her corset. Like you can feel her tension
What did
because of
they
how close
call
this
it back
camera is.
then? Like, when you had, like, delicate sensibilities, like, when you were, like, a really
Mhm.
anxious person?
Well, you'd have fits of apoplexy.
Yeah. There was a term for it, though, I can't think of it right now.
Mhm.
And I
I mean,
swear
you could be called a nervous person or having a nervous condition.
yeah, a nervous condition. She's definitely got that in spades.
But I love the cinematography. I mean, again, our argument to those naysayers who say it's just a show. It's not all that serious. Every creative that has contributed to this show puts in the hard yards to tell the story in a specific way. We know Penelope does not like attention. We know Penelope is used to being invisible, and the camera is so close to her face. She understands she cannot help it anymore. She is going to get attention whether she wants it or not. She just has to get through this. And Portia looks at her, and at first she has this odd expression, almost like she can feel Penelope's heartbeat or like she's worried Penelope might faint. But then she softens and she asks if she's ready.
Hmm.
Like, we actually see Portia read the room for once. She doesn't need Penelope telling her how she feels to understand her daughter. She instinctively understands, I think, for the first time ever in this moment, because she looks at her like she does this quick turn, like, where one of us might, are you okay?
Yeah.
But she doesn't say anything. She just looks startled and looks over. And then she's like, are you ready? She realizes this girl's terrified, like almost like she's shaking. She just is like, does this quick turn. So Penn, though, can't speak, obviously, because she's panicking, but she does nod her head.
Due to time constraints, this will be a two-parter. As per usual, your tangent queens know how to tangent like no other. Therefore, we have split this clip and it will basically continue on in the next episode right where we left off. And today, gentle listeners, we will leave your dope fiber amplifiers there and continue on next week's episode. If you have any tangents you would like to share, please find the Ladies Bridgerton on Facebook and YouTube. Enjoying the podcast, please click like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen.
Yes, and if you would like to sponsor us, sponsor Pod Snacks,
Sponsor
that's
my
at
ice cubes.
Buy Me a Coffee. That's have our ices like in the other Bridgerton or the other Bennett sister. If you want to sponsor our Pod Snacks, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and sponsor us there. You can also become a Patreon. We have a Patreon page which gets exclusive content sometimes. We send out a quarterly newsletter and we've done
Access to our
exclusive
notes.
Patreon events. We watched the premiere together, and that was for our Patreons. So come find us, join us. We would love to have you. And once again, thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women,
Yours,
madly in love women with pollen.
yours truly, Tosh the madly in love Kiwi.
And Lady Patty.